Hey everyone, welcome to Anatomy and Physiology 1. I hope you're as excited to learn about the human body as I am to teach you about it. I've been teaching this course for a lot of years and I am still and continuously amazed at the things that our human body does for us. And there's always something new and exciting to learn. So hopefully you will find this as amazing as I do. Let's begin our journey. So we all have a human body. Cool thing about what I teach, nobody can ever say, how am I ever going to use this in real life? Yeah, we all use this in real life. And we think we know a little bit about the human body. But once you really get into the study of anatomy and physiology, you'll find there's a lot that you thought you knew, a lot to reinforce what you do know, but I think there's probably going to be a whole lot more that you didn't know and didn't realize. And it can be a bit overwhelming. It's very much like learning a new language, as you have to learn the terminology and how to talk about the human body and learn all the different parts and pieces and how they work together for the physiology or the function of the structures of the human body. Success in these courses will require that you develop some time management skills that most of us are lacking, but also that you learn how to study anatomy and physiology, and not just to memorize, but to understand. There's a reason that you're taking these courses, A&P 1 and A&P 2. And that's because you are probably trying to get into a healthcare profession or some career that requires you to know more about the human body. I want to share with you a few things that have helped students be successful in A&P courses, and also share with you some things that might derail your study and your understanding of this content. So what should you not do? Well, first and foremost, you shouldn't wait until the last minute to study. You're going to find yourself cramming, and you'll get some superficial knowledge, but you're probably not going to retain it. So instead, you should study every day or at least every other day. Don't wait until the week before an exam to first start really getting into some hardcore studying. When you watch your lecture videos, or if you're in a face-to-face class, after you come to class, go back and reinforce that content. Read that section in your textbook. Don't read the whole book. Your book is not a novel. You should use it to reinforce the content that you're covering. Take active notes. Don't just sit there and listen and think you're going to retain everything. Find multiple ways to study so that you don't get bored with it. And do this frequently. Again, not the night before the exam, and not even 2 days before the exam. That should be when you're reinforcing and checking your knowledge. You need to study this pretty much on a daily basis so that it becomes much easier for you to pull those files back up out of your brain when you need that information. Number 2 says multiple short study sessions. So it's probably not a good idea for you to sit down and pull an all-nighter, or to study for 6 hours one day so that you don't have to study for 3 or 4 days. Well, taking those long periods of time without any breaks is just going to cause you to feel overwhelmed, and you probably won't remember much of what you've studied. It's hard to stay focused for long periods of time, especially when you're learning new and challenging information. So when you do those daily or every other day study periods, set yourself a timer on your phone for half an hour and promise yourself that when that timer goes off, you'll take just a short little break. Give yourself some time to relax, then go back and review that content again and see how much of it you understand and how much you retained. Now, when you take those little breaks, that doesn't mean it's time to stop studying. That just means take a break, go get yourself something to drink, have a snack, take a minute and scroll on social media or whatever it is you do to relax. But take that time just to give your brain a break. Now you want to go back in and study some more. So keep your breaks at 5 to 10 minutes. Much more than that, you're going to lose your train of thought. So these days it seems we've always got our phones in our hands and we've got our earbuds in and we've got 3 or 4 other screens distracting us. Well, that's really not the best way to focus on something that you're trying to learn, something you're trying to retain and understand. So you should minimize your distractions. Put your phone away. Turn off the TV and don't check your email. It will still be there after you've studied, I promise. Multitasking is okay for some things, but when you're really trying to study, you need to focus on the content. Put all of that content together in one file in your brain, and don't let the TV and your phone and social media jump in there. That's not going to be on your test. All right, so how many times have you sat down to study and you just read over the notes that you took in class or the notes that you took while you were watching your video? Well, that's actually referred to as passive learning or passive studying, because you're really not having to do anything but read. I mean, if you really want to retain information, you need to engage with it. You need to find ways to make it stay in your brain so you can pull it back up when you need it, so you understand it and you can use it and you can apply that knowledge. So rather than just reading over your notes, find active learning methods. Active learning methods engage you with the material. You solve problems or you apply what you've learned to previous knowledge. Learn ways to tie things together. So you can make tables to organize material. Take your lecture notes and reorganize them into table form. For example, if you're learning muscles, reorganize that information into table form where you have the muscles with their locations and their origins and insertions. Draw and label anatomical structures. I mean, you can buy coloring books for anatomy, but I mean, if you sit down long enough to draw them, you're really going to learn. I mean, if you're like me though, stick figures, yeah, I can't draw. They're probably not going to teach you a lot. So you can even go online and download images and label those images according to what you're trying to study. It doesn't have to be pretty. It just has to help you learn. You can make flow charts or concept maps to map out pathways. For instance, if you're learning the steps in muscle contraction, you need to understand the role of the motor neuron and the neurotransmitter and all the pieces and parts in the muscle cell that are going to be stimulated by that motor neuron. So you could put this in a flow chart to show how that happens. In A&P too, if you're learning hormones, I call it learning pathways. So you're learning what has to happen. A happens to cause B to happen to cause C to happen. And then, of course, you remember those different steps. You can quiz yourself, and you should be doing this repetitively. I mean, there are many, many study tools that come with your textbook that can help you to understand this content. Try several different things. Use the Anatomy and Physiology Revealed. Use the practice quizzes. Use the Smart Book. There's so many tools for you to engage with that will quiz you repetitively on those concepts. And then, of course, what about explaining? You know, when you're a teacher, you're constantly talking to people about the things that you're hoping your students are studying. Well, imagine if we got up in front of the class and we didn't know what we were talking about. You know, you could ask me about muscle contraction or hormonal control of the reproductive system. And man, I'm telling you, I could talk all day long and you would get so tired of listening to me, but I would never really fumble because I know it. But how about you ask me how a combustion engine works? Well, I would look at you and I would say, well, I know that's how cars work. And we have to put fuel in, which is made up of chemicals. So I would say we're breaking chemical bonds and releasing the energy, and that causes the car to go. But in the meantime, there would be a whole lot of I think, maybe. And you know what that says? That says you really don't know it. So if you can explain the content to someone else, they don't even have to be in the class with you. You can explain it to your significant other or your mother or your best friend. You can look in a mirror and explain it to yourself. You can record yourself on your phone. Heck, man, you can even explain it to your dog. It doesn't matter if they learn it or not. What matters is, did you know it well enough to explain it to someone else? If you did, you'll go through that content smoothly. If not, when you find those spots where you really don't know what to say next, guys, that's where you need to study. Teaching allows you to learn. Teach it to yourself. Teach it to someone else. So to follow up on that last little item we talked about, teaching or explaining something to someone else. It's hard to do that if you only study by yourself, right? I mean, you can. Like I said, you could talk to yourself in the mirror. You could record yourself. And that's all well and good if you don't have anyone else around. But the thing about that is, if you're studying something incorrectly, let's say that you have a misconception of a particular bone. You think that the radius and the ulna are in the leg instead of the arm. Well, if you're studying that way, guess what? That's wrong. And if you're studying by yourself, there's no one to tell you that's wrong. So I recommend you find a study partner or a group. But I want to say a little bit about that group. A group should be very small, 2 or 3 people. You start getting more than that, and you end up with a study party. So instead of having sounding boards to tell you if you've got something right, or to help you understand something that perhaps you're not clear on, you end up with a social group. Social groups are more likely to focus on things other than what you need to be studying. I mean, it's the nature of the beast. We're humans. We like to be around other people. We like to be social. But studying is not a time to socialize. It's a time to... So if you find that your study partner or your study group are veering off into those other areas and not staying on content, might be time to rethink that. And finally, guys, you have some amazing resources. I alluded to these earlier. Your textbook comes with a lot of tools to help you be successful. You have the learning strategy boxes. They're always in green in your book, and they provide analogies and mnemonics and little study tips. The concept connection boxes, they're always orange. They provide a little summary of certain topics that may be discussed or things that are going to come back in multiple chapters, so you can connect that concept with things that you're going to learn more about later, or maybe things that you previously learned. You have the concept overview figures. Every chapter has at least one of these, and these are designed to give you a big picture summary of major concepts. And trust me, guys, there's going to be a lot of these. Then, of course, you also have multiple assignments per chapter. So as you're reading in your textbook, there are several places in each chapter where little questions will pop up called "What did you learn?" or "What do you think?" Things like that. So write those answers out. At the end of the chapter, you have reviews and questions. There are many things in here to help you learn. Each chapter also is associated with an interactive module that is available through Connect that allows you to test yourself on the concepts that you've been studying. It'll highlight topics that you've not yet mastered, things that you need to study a little bit more, and help you to create a study plan so you can learn about those topics. You have something really cool called APR, or Anatomy and Physiology Revealed. It's an interactive cadaver dissection. Now, if you don't know what a cadaver is, that's a dead human body. Now, most of the time, our students don't have an opportunity to get in and study with a real human body. In lab, we're going to use models and images and a few other things and maybe some dissections, but it's pretty limited. But we're studying the human body. So these interactive cadaver dissections that you have in APR really allow you to see these things that you're learning about in the human body. And after all, guys, it's the human body that we're studying. So find the tools that work for you. Now, there's a lot of other things that come with your textbook and Connect that will help you to learn this content. But the other thing I want to really reinforce, guys, we're going to teach you, but it's up to you to learn the content. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to reach out to one of your classmates. Hey man, did you understand this? I don't get it. Could you help me? Don't be afraid to reach out to your instructors or to your lab instructor if it's someone different. Guys, we're here to help you, but you've got to let us know when you need that help. I absolutely love teaching the human body, and I would love to help you learn it, but you got to let me know when you need me. All right, guys, let's have a great semester, and let's learn some really cool stuff.